In the hierarchy of human survival, there is a cold, mathematical reality that often escapes the headlines of geopolitical conflict. A human being can endure up to 20 days without food. Depending on the environment, the sudden disappearance of gasoline or diesel might cripple a commute or stall an industry, but it does not represent an immediate existential threat to the biological spark of life. Water, however, operates on a much shorter and more brutal fuse. When fresh water is removed from the equation, the human body begins to shut down within a mere 48 to 72 hours. Organs fail, cognitive functions erode, and the collective social fabric of a bustling city or quiet village can be completely unraveled in less than a week. In the context of Middle Eastern warfare, we often focus on the visible protagonists, the massive oil tankers navigating the treacherous Strait of Hormuz, or the plumes of black smoke rising from refineries hit by sophisticated drones and ballistic missiles. We treat oil as the lifeblood of the region, but in doing so, we ignore the actual marrow in the bones of these desert civilizations: fresh water. As we move deeper into 2026, a paradigm shift is occurring in the strategic planning of Iran, the United States, and Israel. While the price of Brent crude can dictate a nation's fortune over months or years, the availability of fresh water dictates a desert nation's survival in a matter of days. In an environment defined by tit-for-tat strikes aimed at energy production, analysts are sounding a dire alarm. Freshwater is no longer just an environmental concern. It is the most vulnerable, high-stakes strategic resource in an energy-rich but hydrologically bankrupt region. Firepower is currently aimed at the pocketbooks of the Gulf, but it is also quietly and far more ruthlessly aiming at the very throat of its inhabitants. For decades, the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, has moved away from viewing water as a mere environmental or humanitarian issue. In their classified briefings, it is referred to as the ultimate strategic commodity of the Middle East. The opulent, high-tech cities of the Gulf, monuments to human engineering and oil wealth, exist on a knife's edge. They are essentially living on life support, provided by nearly 450 massive desalination plants lining the Persian Gulf Coast. The statistics are staggering. Kuwait relies on these facilities for 90% of its potable water. Saudi Arabia, the regional heavyweight, depends on them for 70%, while the UAE hovers around 42%. Reverse osmosis technology and thermal desalination have turned burning sands into modern metropolises, but they have also created a catastrophic single point of failure. These plants are sitting ducks. Located on the shoreline for easy access to seawater, they are exposed to missiles, UAVs, and, perhaps most dangerously, cyber attacks targeting their Automated Industrial Control Systems, ICS. As of March 2026, we are witnessing a chilling shift in operational targeting, moving from purely military assets to critical civilian infrastructure. The opening salvo of this new phase was Iran's accusation that U.S. strikes hit a desalination plant on Qeshm Island, leaving 30 villages without water overnight. The response was immediate. Bahrain, the UAE, and Kuwait soon reported collateral damage to their water and power complexes caused by drone swarms or interceptor debris. Why has Iran integrated this into their doctrine? Experts call this asymmetric leverage. Tehran understands that it cannot achieve parity with the combined air and naval power of the US and Israel in a conventional sense. Therefore, they target the social stability of American allies. An attack on a power grid in the Gulf doesn't just turn off the lights, it kills the water pumps. Without a shot being fired in a city center, millions could face acute thirst, leading to immediate social unrest, rioting, and mass migration. In the logic of total war, thirst is a more effective disruptor than any battalion. The CIA once modeled a haunting scenario: the total evacuation of Riyadh, the Saudi capital, within 7 days if the Jubail desalination complex, the largest in the world, were to be rendered inoperable. For smaller states like Qatar or Bahrain, the buffer is even smaller. These are the Salt Kingdoms, nations whose greatness is built on technical prowess, but whose vulnerability is rooted in the very geography they occupy. However, the water weapon is a double-edged sword. Across the Gulf, Iran is facing its own hydrological nightmare. The country is currently enduring its 5th consecutive year of record-breaking drought. Water levels in the reservoirs surrounding Tehran have hit a historic low of 10%, forcing authorities to discuss the unthinkable: the partial evacuation of the capital. Unlike its wealthy neighbors, Iran cannot simply buy its way out of the crisis with more desalination. Crippling Western sanctions have made the importation of specialized membranes and high-pressure pumps for new water plants an agonizingly slow and expensive process. While the Gulf monarchies face a threat from missiles, Iran faces a threat from the sky in a different form: a total lack of rainfall. In a conflict that has now spilled over into 17 nations, freshwater has become a brutal bargaining chip. Tehran may attempt to use the thirst of the Gulf to force a U.S. ceasefire. Conversely, Washington and Jerusalem may see Iran's drought as a tool to exacerbate internal dissent and fracture the regime's domestic support. United Nations observers have warned that targeting water infrastructure sets a dangerous precedent that violates the basic tenets of international humanitarian law, threatening millions of non-combatants who have no stake in the ideological battle between the IRGC and the West. In a press briefing on March 9, 2026, President Donald Trump presented a narrative of imminent triumph. From the perspective of the White House, the Iranian military is currently a hollowed-out shell. Trump asserted that the Iranian Navy, Air Force, and core command and control networks have been effectively neutralized. He claimed the campaign is progressing far ahead of the original 4 to 5 week estimate, suggesting that the spine of the resistance has been broken. Yet, a closer analysis of the president's rhetoric reveals a series of strategic contradictions. Within the span of a single speech, he characterized the intervention as both a short-term deployment and a total commitment to final victory. Trump justified the preemptive nature of the strikes by claiming that Iran possessed a missile stockpile larger than anyone imagined, capable of devastating Israel and the entire Middle East within a week. Furthermore, he alleged that Tehran had been covertly rebuilding its nuclear program despite the heavy strikes of the previous summer, a claim used to justify the current maximum pressure kinetic campaign. This rhetoric serves a dual purpose. It reassures a domestic audience wary of forever wars, while simultaneously setting an incredibly high bar for what constitutes success. By framing the conflict as a race against a nuclear clock, the administration has left itself very little room for a negotiated settlement that leaves the current Iranian power structure intact. Tehran's response to Washington's demand for unconditional surrender has been anything but submissive. The appointment of Mojtaba Khamenei as the new supreme leader is perhaps the most defiant signal Iran could send. It confirms that the power structure of the Islamic Republic, with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps (IRGC) as its backbone, remains unshaken by the passing of Grand Ayatollah Ali Khamenei or the intensity of foreign bombardment. The IRGC is not merely a military branch. It is a sprawling political and economic empire that controls an estimated 1/3 of the Iranian economy. For them, survival is not just about national pride. It is about protecting a vast network of interests. The spokesperson for the Iranian Foreign Ministry, Ismail Baghai, has made it clear: there is no room for a ceasefire while bombs are falling. Tehran's official stance is that they are the victims of unprovoked aggression, and that all resources are now diverted to defensive response. Interestingly, Baghai has been tasked with a delicate diplomatic dance, denying direct Iranian involvement in strikes against neighbors like Azerbaijan, Turkey, or Cyprus. By attributing these actions to misunderstandings or independent proxy actions, Tehran is attempting to prevent the formation of a broader regional coalition against them, even as they continue to strike at the water nerve centers of the Gulf. The choice of Mojtaba Khamenei is significant for another reason. As the son of the late leader, he possesses a unique combination of dynastic legitimacy and deep ties to the security apparatus. Some analysts suggest that if anyone has the political capital to eventually negotiate a de-escalation with the U.S., it is Mojtaba. Any other leader would likely face a coup from the hardline conservative factions if they attempted to shake hands with the Great Satan. However, for now, he appears to be doubling down on the security-first rule. Despite President Trump's claims of a cleansed sky and sea, the ultimate prize remains elusive: Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium. Intelligence reports suggest that the U.S. and Israel have held high-level discussions regarding the deployment of special operations forces deep into Iranian territory to secure or destroy these nuclear materials.
is a high-stakes gamble. While Trump has publicly denied a ground invasion for the moment, stating that such a step is a long way off, military reality dictates otherwise. You cannot dismantle a nuclear program or an entrenched Revolutionary Guard solely from 30,000 feet. To truly achieve the goal of nuclear elimination, the US would eventually have to neutralize the IRGC on their own turf, a mission that could transform a short-term campaign into a generational quagmire. The economic pressure is also mounting on the White House. Rising crude oil prices are beginning to hurt the American consumer's wallet. On Truth Social, Trump has attempted to frame this as a small price to pay for long-term peace and the end of the Iranian nuclear threat. But with the US midterm elections approaching, every day the war drags on is a day the Republican Party loses political capital. The short-term promises meeting the long-term reality of Middle Eastern attrition. The conflict between the US-Israel alliance and Iran has moved beyond the shadow war into a realm of total strategic exposure. If Iran refuses to surrender and the new leadership under Mojtaba Khamenei holds its ground, President Trump faces a monumental choice. Does he declare victory based on the current destruction of Iranian hardware, or does he risk a ground war to finish the nuclear job? The most terrifying aspect of this conflict is the targeting of water. If the parties continue to treat desalination plants and reservoirs as legitimate military targets, they aren't just fighting a war, they are engineering a humanitarian collapse of biblical proportions. In the desert, water is time, and for the cities of the Gulf and the plains of Iran, the clock is ticking faster than the diplomats can talk. The boundary between a successful operation and a permanent quagmire has never been thinner. As both sides place their final bets on this high-stakes board, the world waits to see if the next strike will hit a missile silo or the very source of life itself. In a world where headlines change by the hour, understanding the underlying resources, like water, is key to seeing the full picture. What do you think? Will the water weapon be the factor that finally forces a ceasefire? Or will it be the spark that ignites a total regional collapse? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more geopolitical deep dives.